Ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin is finally making a move, and I know you have on your mind, where's it headed to next? So we'll talk about that a little bit in the TA. We got to talk about a little bit news, both FUD and good news, what's kind of driving this price action. And then I got a major announcement today for the channel, so we're going to get into that next. But if you guys enjoyed today's episode, go ahead, give me a like and subscribe, turn on that notification bell. And with that being said, let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the special announcement we have for the channel, we locked on an affiliate deal with ChartPrime. And if you go look, it is one of the premier indicators on TradingView, and it's actually trending right now. They got a suite of both free and paid indicators to suit everyone's need. And I got to give a special shout out to Army Piper. He's the one that helped lock this on. So big thanks to you. And if you guys are interested in using this indicator, go down to the description, use my link. And that's all the shilling I got for you guys today. Let's go ahead and get into the episode. All right, guys, over to our headlines. And who knows what to believe anymore? I mean, they say the SEC dropped the case against XRP, and that should be bullish, right? But I feel like every time we get a bit of news, we find out it's not true. Just look at Tesla. Everybody said that they sold their Bitcoin. Come to find out, they're still holding their Bitcoin. I mean, it's just one thing after another. People are always throwing out this FUD or maybe market manipulation, who knows? But allegedly, the SEC has dropped this case against XRP. Now, I have seen a couple things out there. One of them was Crypto Banner. They were talking about, hey, they can drop the case so that they could actually turn around and appeal it faster. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, the SEC dropping their case against XRP, short term, a little bit bullish, right? And I think that was actually, it really coincided with Bitcoin coming down to a resistance level to kind of flip that into support. Timing was just impeccable. And then off to the races we went. All right, so if you guys didn't pick up on it, I did have to change my shirt. I noticed that my green shirt was actually bleeding through with the green screen a little bit. So is what it is. Call me a nerd here. I got my WrestleMania shirt on, but hey, me and my buddy, my little guy, we like the wrestling. So that being said, here, we got to talk about Binance, right? Binance is in the news again. So this one right here is for the credit card. All right. So apparently the deal with MasterCard, that's going to be ending here in about December timeframe. But also in the news was that Binance had shut down withdrawals for USD, and your US currency was no longer protected by FDIC, right? Because some of the exchanges, Coinbase being one of those as well, is they keep that fiat currency in separate banks, right? So if it's in a bank and that exchange goes under, and I've told you guys about this a million times, that exchange goes under, your money is still protected because it's at a separate institution. All right, so very important. You will no longer have that option on Binance.us, just to add clarity there. But yeah, I mean, generally, most people knew this was coming. If you did have Binance.us, they were sending out emails to tell you, hey, this is coming. It was actually anticipated to come earlier, but they were kind of going back and forth. I think they were trying to make it work. Ultimately, it didn't make it work. All right, over to the market update, and Bitcoin has gotten over the all-important 28.6. If you guys have been following me on Twitter, I've said it for days. It had to get over that. It had to come back, test that resistance level as support before we could get continuation to the upside. And here we are. So let's go ahead. Let's get over to the top coins. We'll take a look at that. We'll see what the big movers are and the big losers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, over to the top 10 coins. And you can see Bitcoin has been one of the biggest mover, but not the biggest. Solana is taking that one. It is up 24.6% over the last 7 days. Bitcoin is up 10%. Ethereum up 4%. Kind of interesting. It's not really moving as much. It's kind of losing that correlation with Bitcoin. It's really acting like the majority of the other altcoins now. It doesn't seem to be as strong in comparison. So if you remember that back maybe a year and a half ago, Ethereum at times was actually outperforming Bitcoin. All right, so looking at the other ones, BNB, that's up 3.62%. XRP up 8%. You would think there'd be a little bit more of a jump there with the news that just came out. And Cardano is only up 1.76%. Looking kind of weak, to be honest with you. Dogecoin up 3.13%, and Tron in the top 10 up 6.9%. All right, over to the exchange I use the most, and it is BingX. you can see right now, this is actually the perpetual future. So just so you know, it's not spot and it's only on BingX. So it's what they have on their exchange. But some of the big movers there are Bond at 61%, WSM, BLZ, Ordi, Loom, and TRB, to name a few. But you can take a look at the list. You can see some of your big movers. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the big losers. All right, over to the big losers, you can see Orbs, STPT, Big Time, and BSV. Those are some of your losers. Really, nothing's getting crushed right now, and that's because a lot of the altcoins are probably moving with Bitcoin. So you'll see Bitcoin typically make its move up, and then a lot of the altcoins will follow. Taking a quick look at the Fear and Greed Index, you can see total market cap is over $1 trillion. It's up 2.6%, so that's pretty nice to see. Volume over 24-hour period is 76 billion. That is up 95.8%. Expect that to slow down now that we're moving into the weekend. Always kind of cools off. Bitcoin dominance is at 49.6%. So Bitcoin dominance was pretty high. It has made its move now. So you might see a little bit of movement out of Bitcoin into things like XRP based on that news. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. And market sentiment, it's pretty neutral right now. It's right down the middle. It is starting to trend more towards the greed side of the house. But honestly, it was only $1,000 move for Bitcoin. It wasn't a huge move. We've seen that happen in 5 minutes before with Bitcoin. So, you know, it's good. We are trending in the right direction. But now let's go ahead and discuss it in a little more depth when we get into the TA. All right, so over to my favorite part. We're going to do a little bit of TA. And the first thing we have to look at, because a lot of people are still talking about it, is the head and shoulders. Left shoulder, head, potentially a right shoulder, still in play. Now, if you guys are curious, where could it go if that did play out? Well, you want to work from the neckline to the head, and then you kind of draw a line down from that. But one of my big things is that I don't see a lot of people talk about is they're just like, okay, it could go down to this price area. Yeah, it could go down to that price area, but hello, we have the golden pocket right there, right? So it's likely to find support in that region. And to be honest, it may find support at the 0.5 because a lot of times that tends to play out. You could get a bounce there at the 0.5 at a minimum, and then maybe continue down to the golden pocket here. So that is in play still. We'll see if it gets invalidated. Hopefully it does. That would be nice, and we can continue this little trend to the upside. So you guys are going to notice I do have some new pretty little features on the chart. This is the ChartPrime Indicator. So what you see here are momentum waves. Big fan of these. You'll see that on some indicator packages, but these ones, if you look at it, they work pretty well, right? So you can see right here, when you have this left shoulder, you can see it did find resistance once it got into that wave. Again, right here at the head, you could see that it found resistance, and here we are again. So keep that in mind, right? You know, there is potential that we could find some resistance there and actually play out this head and shoulders pattern. You know, it's definitely in play, but you can also see this bottom wave here, and look, it found support almost right on that wave. So you can see how powerful this indicator can be. Now, another one of the new additions is you're going to see the prime oscillator down here. We are getting towards an overbought region, but there is the potential that we could see a reversal here. And that only makes sense, right? Because if you're looking at the chart, you're looking at where did we find resistance prior to this, right? So if you look over here, all the way to the left, obviously it's a pretty decent sized zone of both support and resistance. Then you come back to kind of current times, and you can see that again, this zone is providing support and resistance. And again, right in this area here. So it's really hard to predict, you know, where we're going to go here when we get into these kind of regions. You know, I kind of see them as like no regions, because, you know, we have to establish a sort of baseline to see where we're going to find both support and resistance. And, you know, there's some strategies where you could look for that wick up and then see, is it going to be resistance, or is it now going to take what was resistance and flip it into support? And that's exactly what we saw here recently. So again, I'm trying to be way more active on Twitter. So really come over there and follow me. I've been talking about this 28.6 region. You can see where this light blue line is. Let's get on the 4 hour and take a look at that. I've been talking about it for a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days, honestly. And that was kind of my big line in the sand. I mean, just look at it, how many times it came up and tested that region. And the other thing you want to look for is it was trying to find support here and it fell through. Okay. Indication number one, resistance, 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 resistance. I mean, it tried multiple times to get over this 28.6 region. All right. And it just so happened to be right around the 0.236 as well. So that was very interesting because it came up again and it was like testing it and testing it and testing it. But then the 0.236 was like acting as support. So it got in a really tight window there. I did take a little, I don't know, we'll say high risk trade, and we'll talk about that when we get into the trade alert. I made like 2.5% on it. No big deal. It's just, I figured there was going to be resistance here at the 286. So I had pretty short term trade, made a little bit of money. I like money, always lock in your profits. And good thing I got out because when it came back up, eventually it did break through. Now, one of the things you always want to look for here is we break this area. All right. So let me go ahead and do a little circle here for you. We finally get a break. All right. We're going to concentrate on this area here. We got our break, but what you need to pay attention to is, does it flip it from resistance into support? And that is what played out. You can see came down, wicked up, got a close above. Then it tested it again and it got a close above. And then it was off to the races. Now, understand that when it took off, it was in conjunction, pretty close to some of the XRP news coming out. So it was really the perfect storm. It would have been a great play. I wish I would have been able to jump on it. Work had other ideas. Sometimes I get really busy and I got to go to places where I can't really use my phone. So what are we looking at right now? That was a whoopsie, but what are we looking at right now? Well, there's some potential here that we could see a little bit of a pullback. That makes sense, right? We're kind of up in that region of where the previous wick was on that news-based pump that we just had. And then if you come back, like, look, you can see there's support and resistance. So again, it's like we might be in our new range. We'll see. It just kind of all depends. I think things will probably cool down a little bit on the weekend. That's pretty normal. And maybe we'll just find a range here between 286 and somewhere around 30,000 or so. It could be an opportunity to make some trades in that area. So we'll keep an eye on the RSI and the prime oscillator here and, see if we can find that range. Because I feel more comfortable in that area. I'd like to see multiple touches and I would like to see the prime oscillator, start trending in a direction to kind of give me that warm and fuzzy to be like, all right, we're losing a little bit of the pop, or maybe we're getting a little bit of steam. Maybe it'll be time to actually go long. So again, I have to sit back and wait a little bit at this point. I mean, I would say since we're up in the cloud now, let's go back to the daily. I think we were touching the cloud, or maybe we touched the cloud and got the rejection. Yeah, so there could be a little bit of resistance there, and you could see there was a pullback. So, it's really hard. Like, you don't want to jump on a pump, right? If it's pumping up, stay away. And because you can see like a lot of volatility, you could see it swing back the other way kind of violently, because what will happen sometimes is there will be people and you have these psychological numbers. And this is a big thing for me. And I always take into consideration, like 30K, psychological number, without a doubt. So a lot of traders, especially ones that aren't as seasoned, but they could still have a lot of money, they're going to use round numbers, right? So they're going to set their sell at 30K. Smart ones will probably do something more like 28.50 or 29.850 or 29.9 or something like that to kind of beat everyone else, and then sell off before everyone else sells off. That's what I tend to do. Like when I'm looking at exits, like this is a good play here. You found support, made that pump up, but where do you get out? I would not have set my exit here at the top of this wick, because somebody else will probably beat you to it. You go a little bit more conservative. That's if you're riding the momentum. I do like to be very honest with you. If I were to have gotten in that trade, I would be looking right here. All right. You see there's resistance. You see support, resistance. That would be the exit for me. So that's just my personal strategy because, like how many times have you seen, probably not, I mean, maybe not a lot because it depends on how long you've been trading. But I will say I've seen a few times, especially in my earlier days, where like I was like $4 or $5 short of hitting my exit or my entry. And it's because I was using round numbers, mostly. I wanted to go to 30K and then it didn't make it. So in this case, it did. But just food for thought. All right. Just kind of my personal thing. But what I say I was going to do, I was going to measure here. All right. So let's go a little above the blue line. Right. Cause you gotta get confirmation that there was support. So let's say maybe 26.7. That's good enough. And right here. So it's a 3% move. That's a good move. Depending on how much you're using. I mean, if you're only playing with $100, then maybe not the greatest, but that's why I like to use leverage personally so that I can use a little bit less funds to make the trade, but then I get an exponential increase on my returns. But with that being said, not for rookies, and you can lose your money way faster using leverage. So be careful there. Again, do your own research, look into it, understand how it works, understand that you can lose all of your money by using leverage. So be careful. That's what I'll say there. All right. So that's kind of a quick look. Where could we go from here? I'm sure that's what everyone's question is. Well, conveniently for you, I still have the Fibonacci retracement tool up that we've had up for like a month, right? So you can see where we peaked here, and that was at about 31.8, 31.9. That's in play. At this point, that is in play because that's really the next region of like major resistance, right? And look at that. Look at how that coincides with the top of this momentum wave. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, that's in play. Obviously, there's probably going to be some pit stops along the way. Like I said, I've already kind of looked at this area right here where you're seeing resistance, support, resistance, and then you can see that big drop, right? So this is obviously somewhere in the 30K region is going to be an area where you'll probably find a little bit of resistance, probably be hard for it to break through. I mean, we'll see. Bitcoin does weird things, but that's where I would anticipate maybe a little bit of resistance, maybe a couple tries before it actually breaks through. But overall, sentiment in the market, not bad. There's not a lot that would really drive me towards saying, hey, we're gonna fall. Let's go ahead and actually let's zoom out. Let's look at a larger time frame. Let's go to a weekly. And we'll do this together because I honestly didn't even look at it before making this video. So what do we see on the weekly? So right here, BBWP, that's saying we are ready for some volatility. Okay. That means it's ready for a movement. And it looks like we're kind of already getting that movement if you kind of go back to where it first started. And then if you're looking at the prime oscillator, you can see that you got the twist right there. All right. You got the twist, and then you can see that moving up. And just back to my old default of Cypher B, but just kind of a further confirmation, you do see a green buy signal there. Now, those things, not always accurate, but sometimes I'd say, at least on the larger time frames, not too bad. So you got a green buy. Everything there, at least as of September 25th, was kind of lining up for a little bit of movement to the upside. But there's nothing here on the weekly that would say we're coming back down. What I would look for, honestly, is that retest here of this area. All right. So about 31.8 is kind of what I would look for a retest there. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out, but I hope it doesn't. I would hope that we stay up here in this range and this head and shoulders doesn't really come to fruition. Because if that was to play out, then of course we're going back down in the low 20s. And that's no fun for anybody. All right, so let's take a look at the trade that I made. And I said when I entered this trade, this is high risk. Do not follow me. All right, so I wanted to be very clear on that. So we had that big wick up based on the news, huge pullback. And then we seem to settle right here and bounce off of the 236. And we came back up and we tested the all important 28.6. I saw a little rejection there. So I saw a pretty big wick, right? So when you see those big wicks, that means that you have some selling pressure. And that made me feel a little bit more comfortable. So we closed under the 28.6. Again, we tried to test a little wick up and we closed under the 28.6 again. So right here, look at the wicks here. All right. So you see the wick on either side, and then you see the body is super small. Well, that's telling you that there is indecision, right? Indecision in the market, and there is a potential for a reverse, all right? Only the potential. And again, this is high risk. I don't really recommend to always trade like that, but I had some new handy indicators and I was a little excited to try them out. At that point, I had everything open. And let me tell you, this package is robust. Like, it's going to take me a while to learn it. I'm actually going to some of the classes that they have. They have free classes also, which is really, really cool to teach you how to use it. And, there's a lot for me to still learn. It's just got so much. So it's going to take a while for me to really incorporate it into my analysis. Right now, what you see, this is kind of bare bones. All right. So anyways, we came back up. We tested again. Wick. I was like, alrighty, I think this is where I'm going to enter. What was I looking at? You can see here, BBWP is a volatility indicator based off the Bollinger Band, Bollinger Band width. And then you could see the momentum wave. We were all up in the momentum wave here. We had a twist and a change in color here on the prime oscillator, which was indicating that we might have a little bit of a pullback. And it was also in the overbought region on the 4-hour chart. Okay, so this was an aggressive trade, I'll say. But I was like, why not? So we got our pullback, but then we got the retail news that came out. That happened in the morning, and I was like, that could have an impact. I stayed in the trade. Hindsight, that's probably where I should have got out, but I didn't. I stayed in the trade, came back up, wrote it out a little bit, and then it was like retest. But we were over just barely, like kind of up and down over where my entry is. My entry was about 28.5-ish. I think it was a little bit under that because I did a market buy. So it was like probably a little bit closer to 28.46, right? So like right in the middle of all this action. And I was like, man, and it came up again and then it came down. And I was like, yep, I'm done playing the game here. I went ahead and took my 2.5% profit. And I posted that on Twitter too. Whenever I make a trade, I put it on there because I want you guys to see, like, I put my money where my mouth is. And like, I'm not BSing you here. I'm not some of the other influencers that are out there saying it's going to the moon and we're doing all these big trades and half of them are probably paper trading. So, I put it out there for you guys to see, but I just wasn't feeling comfortable. And the reason I wasn't feeling comfortable is just look at this right here. Retest after retest after retest. It was obvious that it wanted to go up. All right. You could see that it came down and it retested this level of support right here. All right. You got that nice little wick. That would have been a nice entry right there, to be honest. And that one I did think about. I did think about it, but I held off. And the reason I held off is, I don't have the Cypher B up, but everything at that point hadn't really turned around to indicate to me that we were going to get some push to the upside, but it ended up coming back up and it broke through the 28.6. That's where it always gets spicy. You break through that resistance level. Are you going to get a close over the resistance level? And we did. And I've already talked about it. It came down, did the retest here. That is the big one. And I talk about it all the time on the channel. Unfortunately, it was at work. I had a late night. I was there till like 9 o'clock at night. And I just didn't have the opportunity to jump on it. I did talk about it on a space because I had like a 5-10 minute break. Somebody had asked me, they're like, where do you think it's going at this point? I was like, hey man, if it comes down and retests the 28.6 and it flips it into support, it could be game on. We could see some upside. And sure enough, that is what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this one all the way till the end. I truly, truly appreciate it. And if you guys enjoyed today's content, give me a like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. It will be truly, truly appreciated. You can help the channel by using some of the affiliate links as well. And go over to Twitter or X or whatever it is right now. Follow me there because I'm trying to do daily updates. I'm very active. I'm getting in some of the spaces, talking about a little bit of TA. when I'm entering into trades. I'm showing you my trades. And, you know, I think it would be awesome if you guys can kind of grow with me and be part of this adventure. And I'm really starting to network quite a bit. So we're going to start growing here on the channel. All right. So enough of that. Look, thank you so much. And you guys have a great weekend.